Welcome everyone to this month's Facilitator Business Webinar, all about how technology stole my soul with Suzy Godsey is on. If you guys don't know Suzy, she is a wizard and literally creates magic with all things technical, leads our streaming team with Access and so many other things. So if there were anyone who could make technology actually understandable and easy and you don't have to freak out about it, it's Suzy. So Suzy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for the introduction. Sometimes it freaks me out, actually, so. Oh, I shouldn't say that out loud. So really, truly, guys, though, one thing I want to just kind of bust the myth here for a moment. And so what is it that you have decided technology is to you? And everything that is times a gazillion. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And every time I sit here and I facilitate, this fly comes and helps out. So I'm just gonna have to let this one ride out. So you're gonna laugh at me because now I have a fly on my nose, okay? All right, so, but every time I shoo it away, it gets even worse. So I'm just gonna leave it there. So what have you decided technology is to you that it is not? Everything that is times a gazillion. Will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what have you decided technology is not that it is? And everything that is times a gazillion. Will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And what have you decided happens when you tap into technology? Everywhere you've decided you kill it, everywhere you've decided it's too hard, you can't do it, and everything that is, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Times a gazillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. So what if you truly had no point of view about all of this? So everywhere you chose to be only in communion with the energies, but not with technology. Will you destroy and uncreate all that, please? Times a gazillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. What if you could have it all? What if technology is also just an energy that you can play with? And some of you might have noticed that, we sometimes randomly have things go on at these classes, especially with Dane. There's been classes where he would walk into the door at the morning of class and everything would break down. The cameras would break down, the computers would freeze. Sometimes one time that was the highlight, an entire block of the internet of everything just went completely down for like an hour. So what if you also acknowledge that you are having an influence on technology? And what if you could also use that for yourself? What if you could actually ask to have more ease with that? What if you could ask to have more potency with that? What if it wasn't something foreign outside of you over there that someone else has to deal with? What if it was just something that comes to you also with ease and joy and glory? So everything that doesn't allow that, will you destroy and uncreate it, please? Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Now, in this particular get together, I just wanted to give you a few tips, and I just want to also tell you, don't freak out. There is a Google Doc that we will share with you guys after this call that has a lot of the details in it of what I'm talking about when it comes to equipment, and some also descriptions of like how to use it and everything. So don't try and figure all this out. What I would like to say is there's a couple of different areas that I'd like to talk about. One is actually just doing a Zoom at your house, like what we're doing right now. Here we are sitting in front of the camera presenting something, right? So there's just a few things you want to pay attention to when you're doing that. And also some choices that you can make when you're doing that. You could choose, like me, for example, I'm sitting in front of a picture right now. Well, look at this, the picture is a cactus. Now I have a cactus growing out of my head. Well, That may or may not work. I'm just saying, you know, also you see the reflection of my light right here. That's the light that I'm using. I'm using a really big, broad light that I'm shining right at me. This is more like a professional light. And I still have that from my photography years. So here it is. And I use it for Zooms at home because it does have sort of a soft, it gives you a soft appearance, which sometimes is, you know, advantageous, just saying, you know, especially if you're having a bad hair day, you know, soft lighting helps. Also, Zoom has a touch-up feature. You can use that. It's really cool. It takes the wrinkles away. It's amazing. You know, stuff like that. Just inform yourself a little bit about what the different options are that you have, but also be aware that when you do shine a light at you and you wear glasses, for example, and you shine it right at you, if I'm pointing my glasses straight at the light, then you don't see my eyes. But if I point my face down a little bit, then you don't get that reflection. Of course, you don't have that if you don't have glasses, but you can also do it by placing the light a little over to the side, and then your glasses won't pick that up, for example. One thing that I want to say up front is, guys, when you are presenting a class, and whether that is live or it is like just you at home, please, please, please stop looking at yourself talking. Okay? Look at the camera. You know why? Because then people see that you are looking at them. If I start looking at myself right now, watch, I'm going to look at myself now talking. So what do you see? You see me looking down. I'm no longer actually looking at you. Now I'm looking at the screen, which, yes, I'm looking at you, or maybe myself talking. But no, look at the camera. It's a totally different engagement. And even in a live class, what I highly recommend is if you have a live/Zoom class where you have both, make sure you put your camera on a tripod. Most of these little Zoom cameras come with holes on the bottom where you can screw it into a tripod. And so you can put this camera right in front of you. So your face is really nice and big for the people on Zoom. So you're not sitting in a distance on a chair, you know, really, really far away. If you have a professional camera like we do for our classes, then you could zoom in and you could be a little further away. But if you're using one of these little Zoom cameras, you know, I'm sorry, these little web cameras, then I would highly recommend you put it closer to your face, and then please keep looking into that camera every now and again. So engage with everybody, engage with the people that are live in your room, look at them, you know, go through the room, look at them, and include the camera. Keep looking into the camera lens, because that is what the people out there are seeing as now you're looking at them. And a lot of you also, you know, there is this thing where you might have a screen in front of you that shows you all the people online. And then somebody asks a question and you look at them while they're talking. When you start talking to them, look at the camera. They don't see your screen. They don't see you through the screen. This might be something they're coming up with in the future. You never know. You know, it's one of these things I'm waiting for. It would be fun. But for right now, you actually have to look at the camera for them to see you looking at them. So just play with that and engage with that energetically as well. And I know it looks weird at first. You're staring into a hole, you know, right now I'm staring into a hole. But believe it or not, in your peripheral vision, you can still see the screen. You can still see if people are nodding or shaking their heads or being like, ooh, 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 you know, she's crazy. You can still perceive and see all of that, but still you are engaging with them in a totally different way. So I just wanted to say that up front, because I see a lot of people ignoring that or not ever looking at the camera. And it just creates a little bit of a different connection when you do. Okay, so everything that is, yes.
In the chat, we have someone asking if you have any brand suggestions for cameras.
I like Logi. Logi is a pretty good one, but there are many. I just like Logitech because it works with Mac. And if you have a PC, you have way more to look at, and you can go on Google and just do a little search of like, hey, what's the best one? And you'll just ask, you know, which camera will work for me, which is going to be also congruent with me, you know, what works for my energy, what actually, you know, I like to look at things that are aesthetically pleasing. And this one I bought and I don't like it, so I replaced it with the one I'm using right now. But I can't show you that because it's the camera I'm using, so I can't show you the camera that I'm using. Does that make sense? But anyway, the one I'm using is aesthetically more pleasing to me, so that's why I chose it. But they all are great. Some have zoom, like you can literally zoom in, zoom out. There's all kinds of stuff, so you can go crazy with those things for sure. One thing I do actually recommend though is that you do have a separate microphone, and you don't use the one that comes with your ear plugs. It's a way different quality of sound. Like I can actually show you that live right now. So I'm going to switch from my microphone to the one that is here on my neck right now, this one, dangle dangle. So now I'm talking through that, and now I'm going to switch back to this microphone that I have, and you might have noticed there's a difference. Okay, one sounds fuller, clearer, the other one a little bit more muffled. And also if I move my head right now and this starts scratching around, it won't affect it because I have actually the microphone sitting here on the table. So the only time you will hear something is if I start bouncing around on my table, you know, or scratching the microphone. Not so good. But other than that, you shouldn't really hear a lot of sound other than what I would like for you to have is just my voice, you know, and not some other sounds that come on through the side. So cool.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So you talked about the light. So what do you do for the ring lights, you know, that are the round? Do you do the same thing with your head down so you're not getting the reflection in your glasses?
Yeah, so ring lights actually, they came from photography a long time ago, and they were invented so that this hole here was actually where you would place the lens. So that the lens of your camera or your little webcam would actually go through the middle of that. Why? Because when you shine a light directly at you from the lens's point of view, then the lens will not have any shadow on your face. You will basically have a very well lit face. Now, again, with glasses, this is tricky. You know, if you use a ring light with glasses, you're going to have a ring on your glasses. And there's no way that you can really avoid that unless you put your glasses down at an angle or something, which then would also be weird. So a lot of people clip the ring lights on the side. I find these nice for traveling, but not really super sufficient, but they do much better than if you don't have a light at all. If you're just sitting somewhere and you know you're just literally using the lighting that is in the room, it's usually not sufficient. You don't get a nice bright light, and so these are a really nice alternative. It's a USB, you plug it in, and it gives you a nice bright light. So this is better than nothing. Now, one thing always avoiding too, please don't light yourself from underneath. Here, I actually have another light here that I have used a lot. It comes with a little stand, and it's I actually have that on the dock. So if you want to see that one, it has a rechargeable battery that you can charge anywhere. And it has, it's an LED light, so it gets really bright. And that's a really nice one too, if you wanted to brighten up a little bit. Now, one thing I really love is I like to use a white wall sometimes to bounce off of. When you're bouncing a light off a wall, it makes everything really soft, and you look different than if you shine it directly at you. See, now this gets really harsh because it's shining right at me. Now, if I shine from underneath, I'm just going to do it brutally. This is what you get when you shine from underneath. So see how my nostrils are very well lit. Not necessarily my eye sockets. So, you know, if you wanna point out your nostrils, you could do this. But this even gets created if you have your light further down. See, now my light is down, so that is not very flattering. But if you have it higher up, it becomes more flattering. So make sure that you position your lighting in a way that actually also makes some sense. You know, I often like it sort of just from the side. And also then have maybe natural light from one side, have a little bit of a bouncer light from the other side. Or as I have pointed out with this light that I'm using here right now, I have it straight on the opposite of me. So it just actually, I have lighting coming in from over here, which is a window. So I have bright sunshine coming in from over here. And then I have this right opposite of me as a filler light. And so now I get a little bit of lighting here, and I get lighting on this side from my filler light. So that gives you a sort of a natural appearance, and it's not so harsh. You know, one thing you want to pay attention to is in your room when you set up your Zoom, is the sunlight going to come in over the next hour and start hitting you in the face? Because that is really hard for a camera to deal with a harsh lighting like sunshine and then the shade of no sunshine. So that creates really interesting scenarios. Yeah, Sarah.
I was just going to ask you, we have a lot of asks for your brand suggestions. You have that in a PDF, correct?
Yeah,
that we
that's
could
correct.
send out after. Okay, you guys, so you're all covered. We'll get it to you, promise. All right, that's all. Keep going. Love it. Thank you.
Well, and Suzy, let me ask you about the PDF. If I remember right, it's not translated, but that's because it's linking to actual products that you just need to go look at and find something similar in your language where you could buy a similar kind of thing. Is that correct?
That is correct. And there are some explanations on setup. So maybe we can have a look at that. It is finalized now. So, and it's not a lot of text because there are lots of links in there. So maybe it is something that we could easily translate, but I'll leave that up to you guys. Of course, you can choose that.
Yeah.
And you also, oh, sorry, go Pam.
I'll say we'll translate it and know that you can go ahead and click on it and look at things. You don't have to wait for a translation for that.
Correct. Yeah,
and
there's
Suzy
lots of
also
links.
pointed out in the beginning to like ask what would work for you, what would be a contribution to you, what do you know? So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Yeah, cool. So as I was talking, actually the sun just started coming in brighter on my table, and see now how that's reflecting from below. So I was talking to you earlier about lighting from below. Now I'm having that from my table bouncing light up. So I'm just saying these things so you guys are aware of different things. So I am going to actually show you, can I share my screen, Betsy? Is that a possibility?
Are you able to as co-host, or do I need to make you host?
I think I can actually. I think
Okay.
it looks like I can. So let me just do this. And I don't know, do you see the whole thing on the left here too, or do you just see
Yes,
the, you do?
we
Okay,
see it all.
let me see if I can change that to like, what do you call that? A full screen. Then that way it's maybe more fun. Oh, still not better. Okay, fine, whatever. So one thing I want to talk about really quick, and please guys, don't freak out. You will have this also on the PDF. But what I wanted to show you is that you as a facilitator, if you are running a class by yourself that is live and online, you can start out with basically, well, I can back off, but if you're having Zoom on here as well, you want to have a room microphone, I highly recommend that you use a little mixer. Now, a mixer, again, we have a few different suggestions of mixers that you can use. But anytime you're putting more than one sound source together, you need a mixer. And the same is also true from your Zoom, because if you want the Zoom participants to be heard in class, you can also run that either through the mixer or through a separate laptop with a screen that you can use in your class. But basically, as I said before, what I highly recommend is that you put the camera that you're using for your Zoom very close to you, and you run a USB extension to wherever that computer is sitting. So you don't have to have the computer right next to you. You don't need to run your own Zoom meeting. If you're having a live class and you have participants in that, and you also have participants on Zoom, I highly recommend that you hire a tech person. Honestly, the amount of times I have messed up my audio or my video because I was trying to do it all by myself, and I know how to do it, and I would then forget to push the record button or do something silly, and I would literally miss everything. I decided never again, and now I'm hiring people for this because it is silly. Don't mess up your recording. You are there facilitating, not also dealing with all the technical stuff that goes on when it gets complicated. And when you are doing a live class with Zoom, it gets a little more complicated, and you don't want to do troubleshooting with technical things while you're facilitating. It doesn't really work. So there's a simple setup here, and then there's also one if you have two facilitators, and it gives you just a very simple way that you can look at this with graphs and how you can set this all up with ease. So again, you have those also in the PDF. You can look at this. So one of those possible things is, this is one of those little mixers that I basically suggest. But again, there's another one, and it's also in the link. Now, we talked about angles. So let me show you a few angles, okay? So this is an angle where your camera, now this is about the camera. The camera in this case is below. Now, this would be actually a pretty normal computer setup. So if I had my computer sitting on the desk and I was working on my computer, let me show you, my angle would change, because look at that. This is where my computer would be sitting if I just had it sitting on my desk. Now all of a sudden the camera is pointing up, and again, what do you see mostly? My nostrils. Now, I have found that most places you can find a couple of thick books. Or I have used vases, I have used pretty much anything that I can find. I have propped my computer up on anything that I could find in a hotel room or at my house, literally trash cans. So you just want to set it up so that it is basically a little bit higher, or at least at eye level. So you don't want to be below your eye level with your camera. So here Anne is basically having her computer just set up, so we're looking more at the bottom of her face, not into her face. Now this one here, Donnie has her camera higher, so you can see her face really well. So she's just literally, this is at eye level. So this is more also what you're used to when you're talking to people, when you're sitting across from them, you're more used to that level. So this is you simulating that. Now, Jenny has her camera much higher. So now you're looking a little bit down at her. But again, that is still preferred from having the camera below, because most of the time you're not looking at people from that level where you're looking really high up. That's usually not how you look at it. Okay, so this is just a few things to consider. Now, also, here too, just look at the background too. So she has a very simple background here. She has a couple of plants, she has a couch, she has a wall. You know, Donnie is sitting in her office, so she has things on her wall, she has pictures, she has a folder. So you just wanna look at your environment. What have I placed around me? What are people going to look at? Because if you start talking about something and people start wandering off, they're going to check out your furniture. They're going to check out what else you have around in your room. They're going to check your shelves. They're going to see what's going on. Okay. So be aware of what's around you. Now, also be aware, where are you in the frame? You know, this lady has her camera set up so that she is only at the bottom of the frame. And now we see her beautiful picture, but not her beautiful face so much. So also similar here. Like we are focusing more on the background than we're focusing on the face of this person. And please, you guys, I took these at the last facilitators training. I just went through you guys while you were there, sitting there. I know you guys are not facilitating. I just want to show you a few things here to pay attention to when you're doing stuff like that, because it's important how people see you, because you are presenting yourself in the world. So make sure you make that as flattering as possible. So we talked about lighting. Well, this person here has what we would call backlit situation. So the light is coming in. This is very harsh lighting coming in. There is practically a glare on the camera. That's why it looks so milky. So the sun is actually even hitting the camera. That's something you definitely want to avoid. Always. You don't ever want to have that in your camera, because you get that milky look, and that you cannot avoid other than actually taking the camera out of the sun. Here again, the lighting is everywhere but in the face. Another backlit situation, just a little bit different. So the other thing you want to pay attention to with lighting is, what is the color of your room? Like, do you have walls that are all very colorful, orange walls, which, you know, some houses have? And then you might get also a very orange tint on your face. Well, orange might work, green maybe will not work so well, like we have here. You know, we have a little bit too green. That makes you look a little bit pale. So you want to pay attention to that too. Then you also want to look at, you know, are you sitting there with big headsets on, or, you know, again, what are you looking like, and what would you like to look like? And I do like the earbuds that are wired in, because then they don't go dead. If you know your earbuds last for an hour and you charge them and you only do for an hour, you know, you can use earbuds as well. Like this person is using earbuds. She's sitting out on her balcony. You have a reflection behind her. Again, this is just also giving you some different things. Where is your head placed? Also with me, you know, like I said in the beginning, if I was doing a class, I would probably take that picture off the wall, so it's just a white wall, so it's not distracting. So just pay attention to that. And that, as I said before, is the sunlight going to come in and hit you eventually? Just pay attention to that. And then just for the end, just fun, you know, does my tongue look long enough at this angle? So which angle is it that makes your tongue look long enough, if that's what you need for your particular Zoom? So, and I can put this in the chat too, you guys can have it, but I don't know if it's that relevant. One thing I wanted to talk about too is, if you are literally just doing a class and it's you yourself and you're not on Zoom and you're just doing a live class and you want to record it, these things I love. This little Sony recorder is so simple to use. You can put it in your pocket. It just runs. It's a little workhorse. It doesn't go bad. And then you can plug this tiny microphone on. It wires directly into that. And then you just clip that on. It's great recording. I use it for my Conscious Source, Conscious Writer classes when I'm walking around outside. I have used this for many classes before I bought anything else. The only thing is, you do not hear people's questions really well. You can set this recorder to pick up on a broader spectrum, but then you also pick up more background noise. So what I do is I use the medium range, and when I only had this and nothing else, I also had smaller classes. So then I would just walk over. I like standing when I facilitate, so I would just walk closer to the person so it would be on the recording, because I had this clipped on my shirt, so that the recording would still come on. Now, with bigger classes, I don't do that anymore. So now I've stepped up to basically a wireless system, the same that we use for Access, also on your dock, and run that into a mixer. And then I use the same also handhelds for the people in the class, so they can ask their questions, just like we do in Access classes. So It's also a matter of, hey, do you want to step up to a bigger game? Because of course, if you spend some money on equipment, maybe you want to ask for more people in your classes. I'm just saying, maybe 2 isn't enough anymore.
Pam is asking in the chat if you do a backup recording.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Well, this is actually a great backup recorder. I just use that in the room without a microphone plugged in, and I just leave it laying there, pointing in my general direction so that it picks me up. And yes, I have basically always used this because sometimes shit happens, and then you're happy if you have something, even if the sound quality is bad, at least it's still there. Yeah. So yeah, I actually didn't want to make this so super long. So from my end, I'm happy. I don't know if you guys have any more questions or if there's any details I have left out that you want me to talk about.
We have another question from Andrea. He's saying, regarding equipment, are stream mixers with both video and audio in the PDF?
Stream mixers with both. So the mixers I have in there are the H6 Zoom mixer, basically it's called, and one that Sylvia uses. So she has a different one that she bought that is small and easy to use. But I'm not quite understanding what you're asking. Can you maybe ask again in a different way?
I can't, because I don't understand it either. So Andrea, if you want to write your answer, he said a video mix basically that includes audio.
Well, you mean a video mixer? Oh, I see. Okay. So when you're trying to do more than one camera, you have to go to other software. So basically, anytime you're mixing more than one camera signal, you have to pick some software that does that. Now, for me, the best that I found that we're using also in Access is called Wirecast. I'm sure there's others, but I have found Wirecast to be the most stable environment. It is on the more expensive side. I think it's about $1,000 for that software. To me, it's well worth it. You can put in as many cameras as you want on that software. You can expand it out, and you bring in the audio separately. So you could bring in the audio through the camera. I don't recommend that. But you bring the audio in directly from the mixer, and then Wirecast basically takes whatever you put onto your output, so onto what they see, the camera that they see, with the audio that comes from the mixer at all times. So no matter which camera angle or which camera you're using, you will always have the audio coming in through the mixer, so it's nice and clean, and it's not dependent on the camera that is pointing at something. So most cameras have fairly good microphones on them, but they have to really be pointing at you. And so if you are using the camera a little further away or at an angle, or you're switching camera angles, all of a sudden the audio would switch from one camera to another. It wouldn't be a very good scenario. So I always recommend bringing the audio in separately, no matter how you do it, even if you're doing it on Zoom too, just like I'm bringing my audio in right now through the microphone that's sitting in front of me. If I was wearing a lavalier, I would do the same. I would run that lavalier through a mixer into my Zoom meeting so that I get a clean sound into the Zoom meeting that also picks up when people are asking questions on a microphone. The people in Zoom can hear them. So I would definitely always run the audio as a separate entity, not mixing it together with the camera or using just your computer input. I highly recommend not choosing that, especially if you have a class that is a live class and Zoom. I would highly recommend not using the built-in speakers from the computer.
And so another follow-up from Andrea, is that similar? So what you're talking about, broadcast on Zoom through Wirecast, is that similar to Blackmagic Solutions?
Well, Blackmagic has, I think they might have their own software. Blackmagic is basically the interface that we use between the camera and the computer, because computers, they need a lot of GPU to run the camera information. So if you're running more than one camera into a computer, first of all, some computers can't even do it, like they can't process the camera pictures. You do need an interface, but a lot of times also it overwhelms the computer and it gets hot and it starts fritzing out. So Blackmagic makes a lot of those interfaces. I don't know if they make stream software where you can bring in more cameras at once. Actually, I have not checked out their software at all, but we do use their intensity extremes actually for all of our cameras. That's what they're called, but it's all Blackmagic design.
We have a question in the chat about using 2 cameras into Zoom, like the live class audience, and then also, I guess, also the facilitator, live class audience and Zoom. I know it's like, I always set up 2 laptops if I don't have 2 cameras. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the only thing with Zoom is that it will only feature the picture where the sound is coming through. So if you have Zoom on speaker view, basically the picture where the sound is the picture you see. Now, this is the only thing that gets a little tricky, because my recommendation, like I said before, is to basically always run the sound directly into your Zoom meeting from a mixer if you're having a live class mixed with a Zoom class. Which means that if you then had a participant asking a question and you would point the camera on them, you would now have to basically spotlight that picture, because the sound would still be coming through the camera that's on you. So if you wanted their sound to be matched up with their picture, you'd have to have your tech person spotlight that picture, which is all fine and good. Like, it's not a big deal, but your person that's running your tech stuff just has to be on the ball.
Can you also answer this question so it's on the recording? You mentioned earlier about Zoom Touch Up, and several people were asking, where is that? How do you find it?
Well, it's under the preferences. I think it's basically, if you go to the preferences in Zoom, I think it's under the video settings. There is a setting there that says touch up my appearance, and you can actually, there's a little lever that shows you how far you can touch yourself up. So you can definitely choose there, you know, how much you want to be touched up. It just makes your pores less visible by putting a little bit of a soft focus filter on there. So basically, you're not as crisp, but you are losing some of your wrinkles.
Thank you. And somebody else asked, which is better to look at the Zoom on a mobile phone? Is it looking at the camera or looking at the screen of the mobile?
Well, I would always say, like, look at the camera. I often see that too when people take little videos of themselves, you know, or do selfies. A lot of times people look at the screen instead of the camera. Now, if you do a selfie, your camera is a little bit more hidden because it's up here, and it's not necessarily so super intuitive to look at this little slot up here, but that's where your camera is. So if you take a selfie, look at the side of the screen of your phone, really, then you're actually looking at the camera. Now, the newer cameras have, you know, these, but you wouldn't take a selfie with them because otherwise you don't even see what you're pointing at. So the frontal cameras are usually here. And you can always find out where your camera is. Just run your finger along and see when it covers the camera, and then you know where the camera is. So it's real easy to see if you don't know for sure. But I always recommend looking at the camera because it's more of a engaging way to present yourself. At least that's my point of view. Park and pop me. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and park, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Hey, Suzy. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking at the camera. I want so much to look at you, but I won't. I just want to say, because some of you might be wondering, do I have to record my classes? Maybe you haven't been recording them. So it's not a requirement of your license that you record your classes and have that available for your participants. But these days it's so easy to do that people expect it. So, if you haven't been doing it, it's something you might want to look at. And then you do want to have your participants sign an audio visual release so that you can give each of them the recordings. And also look in your facilitator manuals about data protection, because people can come to your class and choose not to be recorded. And there's information about that there as well.
I'm so glad you said all that, Pam. Yes, and then somebody was saying that you have, you can touch up even your eyebrows and you can put lipstick on. Zoom does all that. It's very funny. But one thing I want to actually talk about real quick, because also Betsy is using a virtual background. And, on the virtual background, Betsy, actually, why don't you talk and move for a second? Yeah, see, on the virtual background, what starts to happen is that you start to blend in with your background. Now, there's one way to make that easier. So if you love virtual backgrounds, if you're just one of these people that just say, wow, I just love it when I have whatever it is behind me and nobody sees my room, I highly recommend you buy yourself a green screen. What is a green screen? It's a piece of velvet that is green. Now, why? Because that way the camera actually, there's virtual backgrounds are based on basically taking an algorithm of your face, of your clothing, and then deciding what's background and what's you. Like right now, Betsy has only hands and a head. Look at that. That was funny. So everything else had disappeared, but if you have a green screen behind you, that doesn't happen, because then it sees the green screen and it knows exactly where it should be projecting the background. So you avoid your hands disappearing, you avoid your body disappearing when you start moving, and your background basically stays much more stable. So if you love your backgrounds, get a green screen, put it behind you, make sure it covers the entire view of the camera, and then you're good to go with your virtual backgrounds. One other thing
Also,
is
really quick, Suzy, they also have those that actually attach to the back of your chair. They're like those windshield ones that roll up in a circle, and you can put them away, but they just go on the back of your chair that are really easy.
awesome. There you go. Easy peasy. That's lovely. So, that's something to look at if that's what you like. And then also Zoom now has another feature where they blur your background. I actually kind of like that feature where your background gets just more blurry. I have never tried it, so I don't even know where that is, but you will explore Zoom. Just go into the preferences and play around and check it out. It's, it could be fun to just see all the different things that they're doing these days.
It's
Yes,
a lot of fun.
Sarah.
You can do lots of different things here. I don't know if this is the one you want to use for your classes, but you can have a lot of fun.
Awesome. Coolio. So what else? Oh, so Betsy, you know what? I was afraid of that. They couldn't see you while I was talking. So can you speak and move?
Yes. So here I am moving around, and you can see my hands disappear, and as I'm moving, and you see some of my background, and yeah, so does that help? Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. That was a great demonstration.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So Suzy, what do you do when nothing is working and your class needs to start and you're having technology issues?
Oh yeah, that one. Yes. What I do is I take a breath. Yeah. And another one. And another one. And then I just basically go, okay, so what's up? What's going on? What's happening? I see a lot of times, even in my team, there is a people that start panicking and start pushing buttons, which is very funny to me, you know, because sometimes people just think, well, now something is wrong, so I just need to start pushing buttons. I always find that amusing because I always look at, okay, so what's actually really going on here? What's the likelihood of what's not working? Let's say I have been using my microphone for the last 2 years and it's on, and my settings have been fine for the last 2 years. That's the last thing I would start with, because then I go, okay, cool. My microphone is most likely still working. So what else is going on? What's going on here? Where is the breakdown? Where is it not working? What's happening? And a lot of times, like, restarting a computer can fix a lot of things. But the main thing is to stay calm. And that's why I say, please, guys, you know, really look at it. If you're starting to have classes where you have several people online, you have several people live, you can afford an audio person. Hire someone. And even if they just want to do it in exchange for the class, sometimes that works. But just have a look at that. You know, will that make your life easier? Is it a contribution to your class? You know, and then you have someone you can yell at. You know, you could say, hey, why isn't this working? You can be the asshole. Everything that brought up times a gazillion. Will you just try and uncreate it, please?
And hopefully they are just as good at receiving that frustration as you are, Suzy.
Exactly. Because, you know, it is frustrating if you want to start your class. And I mean, gosh, there's been so many times, like I said, Dane would walk in and everything would break. And he is so excited and he wants to start class. And then we're trying to get things going again. And he has to wait for 5 minutes. That's an eternity, you know? So in that eternity, you better like keep a smile on your face, basically, so that you're, you know, anyway, just whatever you can be and do at that moment to also come up with another plan B. Like, for example, if nothing is working, you could just go, okay, so what can I do right now to even just get this class going? Okay, all right, let me turn on my phone. Let me put Zoom on my phone. Let me hold my phone. Let me record into Zoom while I'm holding my phone, pointing it at myself and at the audience. Okay, cool. I just did my whole setup in 2 minutes. At least I started. You could always revert to something like that. And that's why I love having something simple as this too, because with this, you can always start your audio, no matter what. These things, I have never seen one of these break so far. And we've had them for years for the translators. I've maybe thrown one out in all the years. Like, they literally are little workhorses and they just keep going and going. So that's a great little backup thing to have for sure.
Awesome. If there's no more questions, oh, let me see. There's, okay, there is one. Andrea has another one. He kindly says, if I may ask one more question, what is the best way to eliminate noise on the H6 Zoom mixer? Mine sounds like the microphone's gain is way high, which it isn't. In other words, are the best settings for clean sound on the H6 in the PDF? In your PDF, I'm assuming.
No, they're not. To be honest, I have never had that issue with that H6. So maybe that's a conversation we have to look at what's going on with your H6 or what microphone you're using. There's also a line in function and a mic function. So maybe your setup actually would ask for line, because if your gain is really low and you're getting it overdriven, then you're probably running a mic into, like, you maybe, like, let's have a look. There's something weird because it sounds like you're maybe your mic isn't a true mic. Maybe your mic should be running as a line function. So maybe there's something else where there's something not quite correct, because you shouldn't be overdriven with a regular microphone into the H6. It should be clean. So if you're really low on your gain and you're way out there, something else is up. So, yeah.
Thank you. There's another question. This might be for you, Pam. Does BP certification renewal also apply to facilitators because the history was written for us on the site? Do you want to answer that here?
I think let's just keep this about technology, and I'd say send that question into customer service.
Fantastic.
And I do want to say, if that last question that Suzy took made you go, I don't know what she's talking about, that's because that was two people who know a lot about technology going back and forth. Don't worry about it. Pod.
Park and pod, everything that brought up.
I love those, Suzy. If you did kind of touch on it and poke a little bit about, what it is when you want to upgrade your business. If you want to start having those classes that have way more people in them, the way that we, choice creates awareness, how choice also creates the possibilities. And so can you talk a little bit about what you've seen with that as you've upgraded these things in your business, what has shown up?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say like a few things. I can't all put it on one thing, but I have to say that some of the choices that I have been making have created more people in my classes, and it makes no sense. One of them has been to really now always hire an audio person, because I literally messed up every time. One of them has also been to ask the animals to contribute to my business, and that has changed a lot of things. And one has also been to really be willing to be seen and to and that's always a big one. There's new things all the time with every class that I go to with Gary and Dane that comes to that, like the willingness to actually be seen and be out there. And there's been so many times when I really go, oh, fuck, again, that one. I think I'm there, and then no, then I hear them talking about something and I go, oh, darn, I'm still not willing to be that or seen as that or whatever it is. So I can also really highly recommend that you just keep running clearings on your appearance or how you are seen or you would like to be seen in the world. And especially that whole conversation about image, and what is it that the image that you're trying to project, rather than being yourself, what actually is possible if we're all ourselves, and how much more is available if we're willing to be ourselves rather than trying to become or be an image. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Pam, did you have anything else, or I'm just going to remind people about the things coming up? Suzy, you're wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suzy. And no, I don't have anything other than what you were going to talk about.
Okay.
And
so,
actually, one more thing. If there's anything that drives you crazy about yourself, joke about it. Like, so for example, I often joke about my gray hair. Then I just fucking joke with myself, because I have gray hair now and I don't want to color it. Okay, fine. So there it is. There's my gray hair. Take it or leave it. But make jokes about the stuff that drive you crazy, and then what else is possible? And the fly sitting on me, exactly.
Thank you for that. And I love the space that you were with the fly. I don't know if I could choose that. That level of allowance was beautiful.
Thank you.
So just a few reminders, if you guys weren't on in the beginning when Emily was on and shared with us a few updates. She asked me to close us off with these reminders. So February 28th is now the new date where you can have your online classes still. So that has been extended out to February 28th. So keep creating. Also, January 15th will be Global Bars Day. So we're asking for you, if you'd like to create an event to host people this year, we are going to be doing a few hours at the start of this to invite people in the community or who want to come from wherever to get their bars run who may have never heard of bars. And so what can you create in your communities? We do have a invitation that's going to be created for you to hand out in places like fire departments, police stations, hospitals, like all of like the first responders. And it doesn't even have to be that. It could be teachers. It could be your mom. whoever requires bars. And then also, I'm looking at my notes, to look at posting a bars class the following weekend, because the reach that Global Bars Day has is actually an invitation for you to co-create with Access, and the platform that Access has created all these years. You are on it, you are a gift to it. And so if you co-created with Access and put a bars class on the books after, there will be a lot of people looking for bars, and how can that contribute to you and your business. And you can check your Ning. I'm like brainless, so I'm making sure I get everything. So you can check your Ning and follow up emails for more information about Global Bars Day. But we have a social media campaign that you guys can be playing with that starts on December. So watch for the Access Bars social and an Access Bars 365, also the Access Consciousness page as well, for how we're going to be playing with bars leading up to that day. So it's about 6 weeks or so, starting in 2 days, of different ways that you can play with social with us to get the word out. And we're always so grateful for your contribution with that.
And also this year, like the bar, you can also go in person in Houston if you would like to participate live as well.
Yes, we're bringing back live. So you can fly to Houston and be a part of the entire day. We are looking for people who would like to come and contribute running bars. So that information will be getting out to you soon for you to RSVP for that as well. If you are looking at that at all, we please ask that you register, because that's our way to know that you are interested, you would like to contribute, you'd like to show up. We have new swag this year. Our t-shirts have just been delivered. We have everything from water bottles to backpacks to stress relievers, these squishy little brains that you get to squeeze that say get your bars run on them, pens, lots of fun things. I'm all about the swag. So there will be a lot of stuff you can get. You can look on the Zazzle site if you won't be live, but there will be a lot of swag products live in Houston as well. So you're invited to that as well.
And I just want to say, because we do often get questions about this, Global Bars Day is a celebration of bars. It's not a class. Anybody can come. Anybody can come to the events that people have all around the world, and it's not a bars class. So.
And somebody was asking for clarification on the fire department stuff.
So that's in creation right now. There will be a new landing page that when you get this thing that you can print out and hand out, it'll have a QR code on it, and it'll go to a landing page just talking to like basically a new person about the bars and inviting them to come get their bars run. So that's literally in the works. As soon as I get off this meeting, I'm going to look at some website copy and hopefully move that along. But it's really exciting to look at from the place of us getting out in our communities and inviting these people to have their bars run. So yes, keep an eye out for that. Hopefully that answered that for you, Julie. Yeah.
And they're asking where's it going to be? Is it streaming on YouTube, or is there going to be a landing page?
So I believe it'll be in YouTube and on the Global Bars Day page as it was last year. And I'm not the tech person. So Suzy, I don't know if you know that answer. Global Bars Day streaming live on.
I think they have chosen to do it on YouTube, but also on our website. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right. So go create. Be magic, Pam.
One more thing. Well, there is one more thing. We do have a bars practitioner, or is it all practitioner? We have a practitioner Zoom.
It's all practitioners. Yes.
Yeah, all practitioner Zoom on December 1st. And I know some of you were posting questions about practitioner stuff. That's the place to come on and find out more about all of that as well. Plus hydration.
Hey, what else is possible? Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you again, Suzy.
Thank you for having me.
It was awesome, really was.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, translators.